was standing at the altar in a $15,000 wedding dress, holding a bouquet that hid my phone. My fiancé Nicholas smiled at me, thinking he was about to marry me and get access to my money. He had no idea that in 60 seconds, I was going to cancel this wedding and expose every lie he'd ever told me in front of 100 people. And I wasn't going to shed a single tear. Before I tell you how I exposed a con artist at my own wedding and walked away with my dignity and my money intact, hit that subscribe button, because this is a story about what happens when someone mistakes your kindness for stupidity. And trust me, he learned his lesson the hard way. Let's begin. My name is Linda, and for most of my life, I've been what people call the responsible one. I'm 34 years old, a hospital administrator, and I worked hard for everything I have. When my grandmother passed away 5 years ago, she left me some money. Not a fortune, but enough to give me security. About $180,000 in savings. I met Nicholas at a charity event 2 years ago. He was charming, well-dressed, and came from what everyone called a good family. He worked in finance, drove a nice car, and knew all the right things to say. When he proposed to me 8 months ago, I thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. His family never thought I was good enough. His mother, Betty, would make comments about my background. His Aunt Amanda once said my money was too new to really count. They all acted like Nicholas was doing me a huge favor by choosing me. I tried to ignore it. I loved Nicholas, or at least I thought I did. I trusted him completely. I was so wrong. 2 days before my wedding, I was in our bedroom packing Nicholas's tuxedo for the ceremony. We were getting married at the Beaumont Estate, the most beautiful venue in the state. White roses everywhere, crystal chandeliers, a string quartet. I'd spent months planning every detail. The wedding was costing nearly $40,000, all from my savings. Nicholas had insisted we use my money for the wedding. He said he was cash poor because of investments that would pay off soon. He promised he'd pay me back. I believed him because I loved him. Nicholas had gone out to meet his brother Brandon about bachelor party plans. He'd be back in a couple hours. I was checking his tuxedo jacket pockets, making sure there were no receipts that would ruin the photos, when I felt a piece of paper. I pulled it out. It was a receipt from a jewelry store called Discount Gems. The date was from 8 months ago, right when Nicholas proposed. My hands started shaking as I read, Cubic zirconia, 2.0 carat, total 150 bazars. I looked down at my engagement ring. The ring Nicholas had given me when he told me I was the love of his life. The ring I'd shown everyone, so proud. It was fake. $150 fake. I sat on the bed, staring at the receipt. Why would he give me a fake ring? Maybe he'd been embarrassed about money. Maybe he was planning to upgrade it later. Buzz! Buzz! The sound came from the living room. Nicholas's phone. He left it behind. Something he never did. Buzz. Buzz. More messages. I walked to the living room, the receipt still in my hand. His phone was on the coffee table, screen lighting up with notifications. I shouldn't look, but I was holding a receipt for a fake ring, and something in my gut screamed that something was wrong. I picked up the phone. The messages were right there on the lock screen. Justin. Bro, you really think this is gonna work? Justin. Just don't let her find out before Saturday. My heart stopped. Find out what? I unlocked the phone with the passcode we'd shared. I opened the messages with Justin, Nicholas, 30 minutes ago. Once we're married, I can get access to her accounts. Justin. She doesn't know about the debt. Nicholas. No clue. She thinks I still have my job. She doesn't know I got fired 6 months ago. Once I'm her husband, she'll help. She's too nice to say no. Justin. What about the $85K you owe? Nicholas. Linda's got $180K from her grandmother. Once we're married, I'll figure it out. She's too invested to leave now. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. I scrolled up. More messages with his brother Brandon. Brandon, last week. You need to tell Linda the truth before the wedding. Nicholas. I'll tell her after. Once we're married, she won't leave. So Brandon knew. Everyone knew except me. With shaking hands, I pulled out my own phone and photographed everything. Every conversation, every lie, Then I put Nicholas's phone back exactly where it was. I sat on the couch, staring at the fake ring on my finger. Nicholas didn't love me. I was a solution to his money problems, a bank account with a heartbeat. And in 2 days I was supposed to marry him. Something cold and hard settled in my chest. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer, Jessica. "Jessica," I said, "I need to see you right now. It's an emergency." Jessica arrived within an hour. I showed her everything, the receipt, the text messages, all of it. She read through the texts, her face getting harder. Then she looked up at me. "Linda, you need to call off this wedding. Today." "I know," I said, "but I don't want to cancel it quietly." Jessica raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I want everyone to know what he did. His family has been treating me like I'm not good enough for 2 years. I want them to see exactly who Nicholas really is." "What are you thinking?" "I'm going to go through with the ceremony. Right up until they ask me if I take him as my husband. Then I'm going to say no, and I'm going to tell everyone why." Jessica was quiet for a moment. Then she smiled. "That's legal. You can do that. You're not making false statements. You have proof. And calling off a wedding isn't a crime. It's your choice right up until you sign the marriage license." "Will he be able to sue me?" "No, truth is an absolute defense. He can't sue you for telling the truth." "Good," I said. "Then let's make sure I'm protected." For the next 2 days, Jessica worked to secure my assets. She made sure my bank accounts were locked down tight. She contacted the venue and explained that while the wedding would go forward, the marriage wouldn't, and made sure they understood not to file any marriage paperwork. She also arranged for witnesses. Jessica invited her paralegal, Melissa, and another attorney, Patrick, to attend the wedding. They would document everything. Nicholas had no idea what was coming. The wedding day arrived. I woke up early, got my hair and makeup done, and put on my $15,000 dress. I looked beautiful, like a bride about to have the happiest day of her life. But inside, I was ice cold, focused, ready. The Beaumont estate was stunning. White roses covered every surface. Crystal chandeliers sparkled. 100 guests filled the seats, mostly Nicholas's family and friends. His mother Betty, his aunt Amanda, his brother Brandon. They were all there, dressed in their expensive clothes, thinking they were about to watch Nicholas marry beneath him. I stood at the back with my father. He squeezed my hand. "You look so happy, sweetheart," I smiled. "Thanks, Dad." The music started. I began walking down the aisle. Nicholas stood at the altar in his tuxedo that practiced a smile on his face. Brandon stood beside him as best man. The officiant, a minister named Gregory, waited with his book open. As I walked, I heard Aunt Amanda whisper, "Well, she certainly caught herself a good one." I reached the altar. Nicholas took my hands. His palms were sweaty. The officiant began. "Dear beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the joining of Nicholas and Linda in holy matrimony. Marriage is a sacred bond, built on trust, honesty, and mutual respect. Trust, honesty, respect." Nicholas knew nothing about those words. The ceremony continued. Finally, the officiant reached the vows. "Nicholas, do you take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, for richer or for poorer in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live?" Nicholas looked into my eyes. His voice was smooth, confident. "I do," the biggest lie he'd ever told. The officiant turned to me. "Linda, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, for richer or for poorer, in sickness and in health, as long as you both shall live?" The hall went silent. 100 people waited. I looked at Nicholas. Really looked at him. "No," I said clearly. "I don't." The silence was deafening. Nicholas's smile vanished. "What?" "Linda, what are you—" "I found something 2 days ago," I said, my voice loud enough for everyone to hear. I pulled my phone from my bouquet. "I found a receipt in your jacket pocket." Nicholas went pale. "Linda, don't— A receipt for this ring." I held up my hand. "The ring you said represented your love. It's cubic zirconia. It cost you $150. Gasps erupted. Betty's hand flew to her mouth. But the fake ring wasn't the worst thing. I continued. I held up my phone showing the screenshots. I also found your text messages. Messages where you admitted you lost your job 6 months ago. Messages about your $85,000 in debt. Messages where you planned how you'd convince me to give you my inheritance money. I looked at the crowd. You told your friend Justin that I was too nice to say no, that I was too invested to leave you at the altar. You were wrong. Nicholas lunged for my phone. You're crazy. I have screenshots of everything, Nicholas. Your lies, your plans, all of it. I looked at the guests. My attorney is in the 3rd row. Everything I'm saying is documented and true. Jessica stood and nodded. Brandon grabbed Nicholas's arm. Nick, what is she talking about? Shut up! Nicholas snapped. I continued. I'm not canceling this wedding because of money. I could forgive being broke. What I can't forgive is being lied to, being used, being treated like an ATM instead of a person. I looked at Betty. You spent 2 years telling me I wasn't good enough, that my money was too new. But your son planned to marry me just to steal my grandmother's inheritance. He gave me a fake ring because he doesn't respect me. He lied about everything. Betty's face went from shocked to mortified. I turned back to Nicholas. This wedding is canceled. We are done. Nicholas's face twisted with rage. You embarrassed me. I'll sue you. You can't sue someone for telling the truth, I said calmly. And if you try, my lawyer will bury you in legal fees you can't afford. Nicholas made a strangled sound of rage. He ripped off his boutonniere and threw it down, then stormed down the aisle, shoving past guests. Betty started crying. Brandon looked shell-shocked. Aunt Amanda sat frozen. I walked to the microphone. Thank you for coming. I'm sorry you had to see this, but I'm not sorry for what I did. The reception is canceled. The flowers and favors are yours to take. The food will be donated to a homeless shelter. I handed my bouquet to Jessica, lifted my dress, and walked out. My father caught me in the parking lot. Linda, are you okay? I hugged him. I'm perfect, Dad. I'll explain everything. I drove away in my wedding dress, sunlight streaming through the windows, the weight of lies finally lifted. That was 6 months ago. Nicholas's mother cut him off financially. His brother stopped speaking to him. He had to move to a small apartment and got a job at a call center. Last I heard, he's in therapy and attending financial counseling. I hope he gets help, not for his sake, but for whoever he might date next, me. I'm doing great. I kept my money, my dignity, and my self-respect. I had that fake ring mounted in a frame with a plaque. The most expensive $150 I ever spent. It sits on my desk as a reminder. A few weeks later, Aunt Amanda actually apologized to me. She said she was horrified by what Nicholas had planned. My parents were shocked, but ultimately proud. My dad said, I raised you to be strong and you proved it. The money I saved? I used some for a trip to Europe with my best friend. 2 weeks in Italy, France, and Spain. Best vacation of my life. The rest went into investments with a legitimate financial advisor. Would I get married again? Maybe. But next time I'll be smarter. I'll trust my instincts. I'll pay attention to red flags. The biggest lesson? It's better to be alone and respected than partnered and used. It's better to walk away, even if it's embarrassing, than to stay and let someone destroy your life. Nicholas thought I was too nice, too trusting, too invested to leave. He thought wrong. Standing at that altar and saying no, that wasn't the hardest thing I've ever done. It was the easiest, because saying yes would have been so much worse. I don't regret a single second. And honestly, watching his face crumble when his con was exposed was worth every penny of that wedding dress. If this story satisfies you, smash that like button. Subscribe for more stories where liars face consequences. And drop a comment. Would you have done the same, or canceled privately? I want to hear your thoughts. See you in the next one.